Okay, right, this is John from Clock Repairs Merseyside. I just thought I'd do another quick video. We've done a little bit of work on the back plate on this Thomas Kefford grandfather clock, 8-day grandfather clock, and I also have a little bit of information about the guy, which is on Wikipedia, pretty easy to find. So obviously he was probably quite an eminent clockmaker. Didn't seem to be making clocks very long, but anyway, I can honestly say he was a decent clockmaker. I mean, there's some really good quality workmanship in the clock movement itself, and also the dial. I mean, it's really good. Anyway, as you can see, the back plate on the dial, we've started to do some work on it. We've cleaned it up. Now, this pretty much was we obviously cleaned it with soapy water, and you know, wiped it off as much as we could, and then I used some wire wool, but very, you know, relatively fine wire wool, not quite zero, but relatively fine, and then I finished it off with zero. And there is still some varnish. Now another thing about doing anything to do with dials with water, cleaning them with water. So as you, anyway, we'll get back to that in a second. But as I say, clean the centre is now relatively consistent, which is what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for consistency. You know, as much as it be looking okay and well, there's got to be consistency there. And what I was going to say in another video, I always start off at the worst place on the dial. I work out which I think's the worst place on the dial, and I start there. I work there, and then I get that to where the best I can get it, and then I'll work the rest of the dial then, because obviously I want it to all look pretty uniform, and I don't want it to look one part to look over restored than another. And that's how we particularly tackle any job. We will go that way. Our idea is to make the clock look like an antique clock, but in great condition, in museum type condition, if we can. Not always possible, because obviously, unfortunately, as we've said, a lot of these clocks have been around the block quite a few times, and so there's, you know, people have put all manner of cleaning products on them, and, you know, and created loads of issues. Now, when it's all said and done on this, when I'm happy with this back plate, I'm probably gonna lacquer it again, just to keep it in good nick, because I don't want my customer really to be going near it with Brasso. I'm sure he won't. We've had a few little chats about things, but yeah, I want it to stay as good as it can possibly stay, and I'm sure it will. It's coming on quite nicely, I think. I mean, pretty much though. I mean, everything could be covering most of this dial. It's only really most of the engraving you're going to see, but nevertheless, I mean, if we can make it uniform, and when there's not going to be any sort of highlighty spots or, you know, whatever on it. So that's that. That's the actual back plate. We've done our spandrels. Now, your spandrels, they were actually put in an ultrasonic cleaner, okay, just to get right inside them. I mean, there's quite a debate on ultrasonic cleaners. Trying to get this camera to focus in. I mean, sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, let me just adjust the setting. I mean, everything's on the fly here, really. I mean, as you can appreciate, I mean, there's no. There you go. The spandrels, they were put in an ultrasonic cleaner, and only for 4 minutes. The stuff I have that does it. It's a homebrew thing, which my uncle, you know, he's been using for years. He's 93 years of age now. He's used it in his, you know, life for years and years, and we went along with that. I mean, it's pretty good. 4 minutes is plenty. 4 minutes is plenty. Obviously, it's, you know, it's ammonia based or whatever, you know, but, you know, the other stuff that you buy is so expensive. I mean, you know, it's like, I'm going to go through a few things with the finishing powder on your clock dials and your chapter rings. I mean, you know, when you're paying for 100 grams of it, you're paying what, a tenner. You know, for 12 quid you can get a kilogram of it off Amazon. Anyway, that's another thing anyway, unless it's got something different in it, which I doubt, but there you go. So that was that. They were in the ultrasonic cleaner. Now these were put in very similar cleaning formula, but we used a brush to scrub these, and then we finished off with a bit of zero wire wool, dried them, finished them off with a bit of zero wire wool, but yet we give them a good scrub. And obviously there's the movement. There's Thomas Kefford's movements, and these wheels were positioned sort of here and here. So we're going to aim to obviously get that like that, and I don't see any reason why not. But we're going to aim to get everything pretty much uniform. I mean, I'm sure if you look on my website, Clock Repairs Merseyside, you'll see there's some pictures of clocks we've done, and I mean, you'll see that pretty much we do things pretty much the same way. So yeah, that's that. I'll put them back in there. So yeah, I just thought I'd just do this video in between. I didn't want to go over what we're doing, but pretty much all that was all this back plate, as I say, it was just elbow grease and a bit of wire wool. Being honest with you, I favour wire wool to wet and dry sandpaper and stuff. I mean, especially at the end, because I find with zero wire wool, you don't get any marks really. I mean, if you do with zero wire wool, and I'll show you other dials sometime we've done, but you don't get the marks. So I always finish off with zero wire wool. I mean, some dials are grained; they've got like a grain effect on them, and people try to keep that, and I get that, and that way then maybe. But always when you finish doing things, I mean, I try to keep things in lines anyway, if you know what I'm saying. I don't sort of start all this type of stuff. I do that with the silver and powder. I go round in little circles with that, because it's got to get right in, and you want it to be pretty uniform all the way round. And then we always finish off, we go round in the same area. If it's a grained effect, we'll go upwards and down, that type of thing, keep everything in the same effect. But yeah, I think I'm quite happy with that. There's a few spots I want to improve on, which I will do. And then when I'm happy, I'll coat it with a lacquer. As I say, you think you've seen the lacquer. I've actually, with this lacquer, I've used a bit of thinners, and I've thinned it down a bit, because for me it felt a little bit, and I don't, these companies don't give me any money. I've felt it was a bit thick. And also, I was going to say, I favour using. I'm just trying to build you a picture up here of what we do. I favour using these pads a lot more than cotton wool buds. Obviously, yeah, they're a women's product, as you can see. But yeah, I favour using these. You get with cotton wool, you tend to, I suppose it's probably down to quality of the cotton wool. But I mean, how do you know? But I think it's down to, little bits of hairs come off it, little bits of wool come off and get stuck on things, and and then it's always when you've tried to put the clear coat on, it's always that time. It's never, other times it's the clear coat, it sticks, and that's sometimes the thickness of the stuff. As you can see, I try to keep things as traditional as I can. If we've got to buy stuff, obviously we've got to buy silver and powder, and we've got to buy stuff. But if an old timer like my uncle, or I know a few eminent clock restorers, if they tell me a formula for something, or they'll say that works, John, I'll go for that, and I'll try to share some of that information with you. I mean, I do agree on trying to look after the planet, but we don't use an absolute ton of the stuff, at the end of the day, and we don't throw things down drains. I mean, I have a friend who has a garage, and we can, he pretty much lets us put all our waste fluids in. He's got like a big oil burner which he burns. I mean, I know again it's going to, but we don't throw it down drains or nothing like that. We keep it that way. We try to be a little bit good that way, and it's only a touch of ammonia. The actual cleaner which we make, the product we make it from, we actually have a base ultrasonic type cleaner, which is environmentally friendly, but we'll add a touch of ammonia to it to give the brightness if we can on certain things, if we can get that brightness there. Spandrels, because spandrels can be quite difficult to get into and clean. So that's what we think anyway. So you know, don't shoot me for that. Yeah, getting back to the movement now. Thomas Kefford. I had a little search on me mobile phone and actually found some information about him. Thomas Kefford. Thomas Kefford, baptised on the 18th of March in 1686 in Royston, which is obviously that clock. Between 1710 and 1750 was a noted English clockmaker doing business at the Dial, 4 Street, Royston, Herefordshire. Thomas was the son of Thomas Kefford, also a clockmaker, and Mary Fordham, and was one of 4 siblings baptised in Royston. Upon Kefford's death or retirement in about 1750, he was succeeded by Samuel Coxall. Now, obviously, if his father's name was Thomas Kefford, and you know he was, you know his name is Thomas Kefford, we've got a date obviously, so he was active between 1710 and 1750. There's no, if it was his father, to me it would be too early for what we've got. So I'm sort of thinking, as Jeff the customer did say, 1740, I think he said to me. So I think, you know, I can pretty much go along with that. I think that's a good date, really. So yeah, but yeah, he seems to be you know, pretty eminent for him to be on Wikipedia. He must have been, obviously, you know, an eminent clockmaker. But yeah, as I say, this is just a sort of, you know, an in-between video. I was just going to show you how things were going on, and as I say, pretty thing. You can actually see, I keep saying, see where it's been beat. They beat this brass. It would have been a solid piece of brass. I mean, because after all, I believe, and you can see a lot of the hammer marks here as you go round. I mean, when you think about that, I mean, that was done in 1740. You know, someone was doing that in 1740. I mean, God, you know, a couple of 100 years ago, good few 100 years ago. I mean, this is the thing about clocks for me. I'm just so passionate about them, really. I absolutely love the history of them. It's really, you know, when you see something that's a bit special, you can think of the work that's gone into it. I mean, you know, God, it's you know, we have trouble doing these things now, and we've got brilliant lights, and we've got lathes, and we've got, you know, and I mean, you know, it's an actual show when you think about what these guys actually done. I mean, I think the likes of Spandrels and stuff like that, they'll have been cast brass. You know, they'll have been in a cast rather. You know, they obviously. Although I believe the hands are sometimes hand sawn, fretted out. You know, which I can well believe. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where we are with that now. It's in pieces. We're gonna get on with the thing. I reckon for me and now, it's probably going to take us a couple of weeks to actually get it to where we want it to be. Then we're going to put it on test, and it'll be on test a couple of weeks as well. We'll test it probably a week without its dial on, and then we'll test it. Rain's terrible. We'll test it for a week with the dial on, and we go from there. Then it'll go back to the customer. Then it's in a nice veneered, light blonde looking case. Unfortunately, it's been shortened, so the skirt they've took about, I think they've took about 9 inches off the skirt or something, so it's a little bit short. It looks really nice though, but probably in its day it's been an absolutely beautiful clock. You know, I mean, and obviously with the detail of the engraving, as you can see, I mean, it's been commissioned by someone to make the clock. I mean, I don't think, you know, it's like a run-of-the-mill clock which is just gonna, oh, you know, there you go, there's a couple of clocks to sell, like, you know, your painted dials and stuff like that. I mean, I think it's a more of a commission situation, which most of them were. But yeah, if you look at the movements, I mean, it's got some really nice touches on it. You know, the way it's going to advance the time, you know. And obviously that's to sort of help, you know, that helps with the strike. It's got a repeat function on it here. so it repeats. So there's a few nice touches. It's a nice movement, very good quality, very heavy, 5 pillar, and as I say, very nice. I mean, it doesn't look to have been serviced very much in its life. If we look here, I'll try and zoom in for you on something. Let's have a look. Can you see where my hand's pointing there? It's like a lever that just lifts up, and this goes on to what's like, well, not quite the centre pillar, but it goes on the pillar. It actually keeps the pillar in. Really good idea. They haven't put a pin in. Obviously they don't want anything to fall out and get stuck in the movement, so they've got it like that. I think I've seen that type of thing on the likes of Joseph Nib. I've worked on a Joseph Nib a long time ago, and it was either Tompion or Nib. The movement was in 2 halves. It was, so you could actually take the strike move part away, and it was quite an unusual. I'd never ever seen it before. I mean, I didn't do a lot of work on it, being honest with you. I mean, I was with my uncle at the time, and you know, he was working on stuff, and he had some very wealthy customers, and he used to sell Howard Miller grandfather clocks, believe it or not, in the shop. I mean, some of them were you know, they were a lot of money. They were £10,000, £12,000, and they were beautiful clocks. Don't get me wrong, they looked the part, but I'll tell you, they're not going to be here. They're not going to be in a few hundred years' time like these. I mean, the wood on them is rubbish. The movements are quite cheap. I mean, here's a, so the side here, the Hamley movement. I don't know why. I mean, it's probably been, I don't know. I think Steve's been working. I don't know. I have no idea why it's there, but you know, that's the Howard Miller type of thing, really. You know, that's the type. You know, well, if you look at the plates on that, bit of a difference, really, isn't it? It's a bit of a different clock, you know. At the end of the day, I mean, these are great, but I think these are like a movement change after about 30 years, aren't they, or something? I mean, with them, I mean, with the older clocks, you can just work on them, you know, and you can do. And I absolutely love it. I absolutely love the old clocks. I mean, I've got to be honest with you, I love working on them. You see things, little ideas which you've not seen before. The clockmaker's done little things, he's done little touches he's done to achieve a very similar thing. That's why I always say, I don't think there's many bad older clockmakers. I think there's just some better than others, if you want my opinion. I mean, but some of them have got some absolutely brilliant ideas, and you know, they're fantastic, some of the things they do. And when you think about it, they're probably making them by candlelight near enough. You know, treadle lathes, and you know, we've got all the best equipment in the world. I mean, and you know, we probably still couldn't replicate as good as, we probably still didn't, we don't nowhere near know anything like they do from an engineering point of view. I mean, these guys, I mean, they were sort of genius level, half of them. I think this guy here, I think he's one of the better ones. He's one of the better ones, this guy. Very impressed so far, and I haven't even got fully into the movement yet. I'm sure I'm going to thoroughly enjoy working on that clock. I really am. In fact, we've got a few we've got to get out the way, but I'm looking forward to diving into that, really. And as I say, I'll keep the videos coming, and then we'll move on to another project, and you know, we'll try and do a few more and keep going, and hopefully it'll be help, and as I say, I don't mind answering sensible questions, and as long as they're put to me in a very, very friendly way. You know, none of us know everything, as we've said, and so, you know, that's the way it is. I mean, I really I don't respond to people who send me anything totally negative. I mean, you know, I wouldn't do it to them. I mean, I see things all the time which I think are quite questionable on YouTube and on off people, and you know, but at the end of the day, you know, as far as I'm concerned, that's their way. It's not the way I would do it, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, we all do things in certain ways, and I certainly don't want to chime in and go, oh, that's wrong, or this is wrong, or no, not at all. I mean, you know, what I know is what we do is okay. We've got really, if you look at our reviews on our website and Google and everything, you'll see we've got 100 reviews on Google. We've got Google My Business. We've got 40 odd reviews, all positive. Well, not all positive. There's one or two sketchy ones when we got involved with a quartz clock, you know, which we don't do anymore anyway, because for obvious reasons, not our stuff. But yeah, but you know, we try to do our very, very best. But yeah, you know, you get the odd thing now and again, but you know, not much at all, because it's always best to spend that time. We make no excuses for our prices. We get on with it. We do what we do. We pay attention to detail. It's not just a job for me or Steve. It's a passion, and our thing is to get it right as right as we can. Get it as near to where it should be when it was made, and we make no exception. We don't turn around and go, oh well, you know, we get on with it. We give the customer the price. We keep the customer in loop, and we do our best. I mean, to get it absolutely right, and we don't stop until we do. And we don't, you know, once we give a price, we stick to it. Really, we don't start ringing up, cap in hand, saying this is wrong, that's wrong. We look at something. If we're a bit unsure, obviously we'll think about it, put a little bit more, you know, safety net money there, whatever. But it's more of a passion for us. If I didn't have bills to pay and I didn't have a mortgage, I'd do this job for nothing. Fact. And I think in my older age, I'll probably go back to doing. My uncle was actually a watchmaker. My great grandfather was a watchmaker. I can actually repair watches, albeit they're small, but we do have scopes and that. But I'll probably have a little dabble with pocket watches and stuff. But unfortunately, the workshop's not set up to do pocket watches and things. I mean, it's a bit too dirty for all that. But yeah. Anyway, this is John from Clock Repairs Merseyside. If you like my videos, please subscribe to me, give me a like, give me a thumbs up, and ask me as many questions as you like. And if I can help, I will. If I can demonstrate something, I will. As I say, everything's down to time constraints, but you know, I'm trying to get as many videos out there as I possibly can and keep it going. I'm trying to stick to one project, video it completely throughout, so that, you know, people get a good idea of what we're doing on everything. I think the next time you see me, obviously we're going to carry on with the dial, and I might do a couple of videos in between, because I'm going to have to crack on with the movements. So I think I'll probably be doing a bit. I'll be getting the clock dial done, and then dials done, and then I'll show I'll most of that. Obviously I can't show you the whole thing, but I'll go through it, what we've done. I'll say what we've done. I won't just sort of jump about and go, here's what you do, rinse it under the tap, and away we go. I'll go through it so that you can do a good job of it. Again, everything's my opinion. Nothing's set in stone. Do whatever works for you, as long as it's done okay and it's right and it lasts.